the journal for a lot of reasons. Part of it was sanity, part of it was something to do. And as I wrote the original script, I was sending it out to my oldest son. I think part of it was trying to maybe kind of show him what I was going through. So, no, I hadn't done any journaling before then. I haven't done it since. I like to take an everyday event and change it around and make it something else. I'm going to be reading mainly from the prison journal tonight. Before I even get started in that, I'd like to point out a couple things about it. First of all, the cover was designed and done by my lovely and talented wife. It shows a guy in prison, but of course the prison is within his head. Secondly, the reading that I'm going to be doing tonight for about 30-35 minutes is pretty, I don't know if intense is the correct word, but it gets a little vulgar and obscene. So I don't mean to offend anybody, and I certainly don't mean to shock anybody. If I thought shocking people would sell books, I'd be writing obscenity, but it doesn't seem to sell a lot of books. But this is about my actual time in prison, so I wanted to keep it as realistic as possible. An excerpt of the Idle Speed book is going to be published in a magazine called The Sun, which is published out of North Carolina, coming out in March. So I'm going to begin from the beginning. This is a prologue to Idle Speed. My problems began when, after months and months of struggling with bills and banks and a mortgage payment, one of my older, more prosperous clients called me and casually asked, "Did I invest $30,000 or $40,000 in that last bond issue you sold me?" Something like teeth gnawed at my chest. You mean you really don't remember? No, I got so much going on I really can't remember exactly. Besides, that's your job, right? At this point, the teeth snapped hard. I became a crook, endorsing checks made out for the stock brokerage I worked for, putting the funds in my checking account, trading heavily in stock options, always telling myself everyone would be paid off handsomely and no one would ever know. I took advantage of my clients' trust and naivete, and I stole their money. As my losses mounted in the option market, I began creating fraudulent Ginnie Mae funds, promising a higher return than the real Ginnie Mae would ever pay. There was nothing very clever about what I was doing. I blamed no addiction, no motor impulses, no uncontrollable cravings, certainly not my parents. I became a thief. I deluded myself into believing it was not immoral and everything would turn out all right. Once the spiral started, I could not really stop it. When the Federal Reserve notified my bank of the huge amounts of money going through my personal account, I was done. I confessed it all. The clients were paid back out of insurance coverage. I hired a lawyer. The teeth had drawn blood. My attorney began hopeful, but as the months went by, he admitted this class of felony has a 20-year max to it. I'm afraid the judge will want to put something on you with your position of being a broker and all. He advised that we waive a trial and plead no contest. The 6 months between my hearing and my sentencing date were a slippery roller coaster between the hope of getting probation and the shattering thoughts of prison. I had trouble finding work, finally taking a telemarketing job that did not pay much but got me out of the house every day. Nights I drank. One day I called up an older broker friend, one I had worked with before his retirement. We met for lunch. After some small talk, he turned square at me, a drink in his hand, and laughed. Tom, sweet, lovable, trustworthy Tom. Of all the people, he broke up with a belly laugh, of all the people, you were ripping off the system. Of all the people. I gulped my beer, feeling ashamed, and yet, curiously, a strange pleasure at being the focus of his laughter came over me. We talked more, and I casually asked him for a $1,500 loan to tide me and the boys over. He had plenty of money, and I naively thought I would get a quick yeah, sure from him. But his jaw hardened, and he said quietly, "Don't think so, Tom. I really don't think so. You're like a rubber band. You're going to be stretched and stretched. And like a rubber band, you may spring back, or you may break." Boesky, Milken, Levine, the Keating Five, the 80s has had as devious, criminal, fraudulent money changers. I'm not nearly in their league, nor would I want to be. We're talking here about lying and stealing and self-deceit. This journal is about prison, pain inflicted and justice received. Prison, a fate of many of the crooked money changers and deal makers of the 80s. Although low in the spiral, I am one of them. Day one is the courtroom in Omaha, Douglas County, Nebraska. I knew I was in trouble when my lawyer, in pleading for probation, read one of my lyrics I had published. Every man, and I'm quoting the lyric now, Every man got to pay the price, even St. Paul skates on very thin ice. You hustle and hurt just to hold on to your shirt in America. The two deputy sheriffs entered the courtroom silent, large, ominous. Your Honor, Mr. Adamson has a very good educational background, owns his home in Douglas County, has never been in serious trouble before, my attorney remarked. Standing to his side, I felt proud of the man he was describing, his client, although it strangely did not make me feel proud of me. I was nervous, I was cocky. The center of attention here, the center stage, yet I could feel it all coming down on me. The judge's expression, the courtliness of my attorney, everything rehearsed and in slow motion. I was oddly detached from the scene. They were deciding the fate of Tom Adamson, not me. I was going down the tubes, but so slowly I had no reason to panic. We had used gambling as part of my defense, but either the judge didn't believe us or simply did not understand the risk-taking and emotional high of doing stock options day in and day out, or perhaps both. His response to my lawyer's plea for continued Gamblers Anonymous and probation was the following, quote, Mr. Adamson, I feel you're about as rehabilitated as you're going to get. As my lawyer finished up, he turned to me hurriedly and said, Mr. Adamson would like to address the bench. Looking slightly bored and above it all, the judge smiled. Go ahead. Your Honor, I'm sorry for the lives of damage and the trust I've broken. I would like a chance to rebuild my life and repay the people I stole from. It was too rehearsed, too fast, and too predictable, and everyone knew it. And so it was to be, incarceration of 3 to 5 years. I fumbled in my pockets for the car keys, gave them to my ex-wife Cheryl, and I was handcuffed and led away. I turned around quickly, and nice guy to the end, I mumbled, good try anyway, to my lawyer. So many feelings, terror, sadness, despair, utter futility were kaleidoscoping through me, and yet I was still very civil, still very polite. Thank you, Judge Davis somehow got through my throat. 3 to 5 years. Good Christ, what does that mean? What have I done? Day 1, later the same day, Douglas County Correctional Center. For the next 3 hours, I sat on a long bench in the holding tank. There were about 20 guys in there. Most were quiet, keeping to themselves. I didn't think too deeply. I just tried to get into the scene around me. I was still in my street clothes, a 3-piece suit and wingtips. At 1:30, the guard slid trays of cheese sandwiches and mashed potatoes into us. A lean, glossy black guy in a burgundy suit kicked his tray to the side and yelled, I don't need food, all I need is Jesus, sweet Jesus. His black, chalky eyes roamed across our startled faces. No one moved, till finally another guy picked up the tray and began eating. In the afternoon, I was led into a locker room and told to strip down and hit the water. A stocky, bald white guy with several tattoos moved over in the shower. And as I clutched my soap, he casually yelled through the spray, what are you in for? Theft? Armed? Yes, thank you. Damn, why am I getting Bill Murray macho cute now? He smiled slowly and turned his back to me and began whistling. Being processed is a long, tedious task, and the jumpsuit I wear is quite awkward. Clutching a towel, a bar of soap, and a Bible, I was sitting in the tank when my name was called out. Cheryl's lawyer is standing in another room with my sons, Reed and Robert. They are startled to see my outfit, but they gamely smile. I try jokes, small talk, anything to make these few moments we have go well. It began in the back of my head, slowly, painfully, a sensation of bone going to ashes. I feel I'm going to break down. Managing to stand up and embrace them as I leave, I am burning up. Reed is stoic as always, but Bobby begins to almost cry. I will carry those tears a long time. Day 3, already, so very quickly I've gone partially numb. Sometimes there seems to be nothing left to have feelings about. The door is iron, the walls are cold and fused stone. The window is a mere slit, only hinting at the world out there. My fellow inmates, kids mostly, who have committed crimes of urgency while high-wired, now revert back to childhood as they clamor for the right to choose which TV cartoons to watch. The intellectuals play cards and avoid arguing over the rules, and the wary burn time with restlessness. Night 3. Thinking about my felony, a series of crimes that sucked me into its nightmare theater harder and harder. Yet I enjoyed the stock option action, the ups and downs, the faint and ever-fading hope of making it all back and paying everyone off. Sweet self-delusion. Day 6. The guards are telling the story of a crazy inmate in another module who last night shit in his sink and then plugged his sink up completely and turned on the water. When they asked him why he did it, he replied, so the fish won't die. The guards giggled, rubbed shoulders, and walked on. The undisputed leader, both in size and cunning, of our module is a black guy named Jimmy. Huge black shoulders, rippling muscles, absolute self-confidence, and perfect timing. He heads the mostly black module. Whether he's singing in sweet falsetto the Nestle's chocolate jingle, whistling up high the good, the bad, and the ugly theme, or merely doing a sexual rap down with the brothers on the virtues of white meat, right now he is king, and damn it, he's cool. Night 6, 11:30 p.m. A steady 3-beat pounding on the wall jarred me out of a blank sleep. Someone called out my name urgently. I hear it twice, and I finally get out of bed. Adamson. Adamson, I need to talk, man. It's Jackson. Next door, man, I need to talk. Yeah, okay, what's happening? Here I was, white ass, stark naked on a cold metal toilet, talking through a wall to the small, slow black man nicknamed Ned, a cruel name the other blacks had given him, shortened from Neanderthal. It's my wife. They just took her into the hospital. I'm afraid something's wrong, man. I mean her going in like this, and the twins are not even due for a month yet. And I'm here and can't even help or even call, man. Now, don't get excited. She's in the best possible place she could be. The best way you can help is to try to get some sleep and pray. A typical white man's answer, and Ned, after a while, let me go back to bed. Next morning, I noticed he didn't make it for breakfast. In fact, it was almost noon when he came out of his cell. He slowly walked past me, looked through my eyes, and said simply, "They died, man, they died." Day 7. I borrowed some soap from Jimmy and washed my underwear and socks in my little sink. Squeezing them out, I gingerly laid them on the railing outside my door on the second balcony. Giving the soap back to Jimmy, I said, "Thanks. Hold on, big man, I got something for you." He disappeared in the dark of his cell, coming back with a grin and a huge book. "Here you go, a big book for a big man. I notice you read everything they got in this place. Always reading something. Here's one, a hefty book. Ought to kill off some of the time in here." We got our first exercise today. It was gym time, and I immediately got involved in the basketball game. I learned quickly that the game in here is more furious than fast, more power than finesse, more show-off than pass-off. I also learned there are a few superb athletes, and then one calls out paper, as in good as cash, when one anticipates a shot going in. Afterwards, I showered and shaved for the first time in 6 days. Tomorrow, several of us are going to Lincoln for serious time. One of the guys asked me today, "You look soft, man, a short timer. How much you got to do?" "I got 3 to 5 years. His eyes widened and he gulped. I felt a flush of self-importance followed very quickly by depressing guilt. I walked down to the big table by the TV and sat down by 2 giggling white kids. Jimmy and 3 of his friends were further down the table, all laughing at some TV sitcom. George, scraggly and young, came from off in the center and mumbled, "I ain't watching this shit," and turned the dial on the TV to the news. The boys shouted, "Put that back, asswipe, now!" But George ignored them and sat down. Jimmy stood up, glared at George, and turned the TV back to the comedy. George jumped up, but Jimmy said quietly, "Now be cool, man. Just be cool. There's a bunch of us want to see this, so just sit down." George glared and turned the dial back anyway. The room got very still. The guard in the box looked out for a second, shook his head, and turned away, his keys jangling. Jimmy raised his left hand to again turn the dial back. George grabbed it, and for a second the thin, gangly kid held the stronger black arm back. And then thump. The right hand came down and slapped George's ear. He froze as a dribble of blood spotted the side of his face. "Now, damn punk, get out of here now," Jimmy hissed. George's eyes, stunned, began to fill up with tears. He turned away and howled out low. I sat there paralyzed. Then a guard strolled out, looked up at the TV, and smiled. Day 8 is on the road to Lincoln. 8 of us felons were chained together, crowded into a van, and headed to the Lincoln Penitentiary for evaluation. When we left the city limits of Omaha, no one even took a last look back. On the drive down, the guards let us listen to some rock music. And when the Pointer Sisters came on, the van was absolutely swaying. Jimmy's falsetto sounding higher and sweeter than the radio itself. "Yes, indeed," he crowed. "Yes, indeed." Day 10 in Lincoln. 4 of the blacks and I were herded into a physical exam room, waiting for the usual medical exam. They talked of their past drug exploits. One told of hallucinating back in Vietnam while on an aircraft carrier that was bombarding a coastal village. There were bodies flying, but not real bodies to me. I could see them bones. Motherfucker, they were skeletons. I could see right through them as they were burning and breaking. I was tripping so damn bad. Another told of drinking and drugging at the same time, driving down the middle of the interstate. thinking he was Pac-Man gobbling up the center stripes. Their conclusions and their testimony to doing drugs, quote, gooder than a dog in the middle of dying, end quote. The talk turned to the younger brothers of North Omaha, the teenagers coming to power in the streets. Shit, man, all they talk, all they say to anything is Uzi, Uzi, Uzi. They think they can fucking outgun the man with submachine guns. Try to tell them the man's got more guns than they can dream of. Try to tell them they're either going to get killed or do 10 to 40 and shit, all they say is Uzi, Uzi, Uzi. They point the Uzi at the man, he's going to be pointing back. Shit, lead is lead. My turn with the doctor, a balding older man. He took my pulse, temperature, checked my records, had me walk in front of him. Everything normal, everything fine. I was about to go when he said, "What are you doing here?" A casual question, not too difficult to answer, but I felt overwhelmed. I didn't speak. I just stood there looking at him. What am I doing here? I thought, what do you mean? Do I look innocent or that much out of place? Or do you mean probably? How could I have screwed up so badly to wind up here? Or he softly began to speak Adamson. Doing time involves idle speed. Your mind is racing 1,000 miles an hour and you're idle. You're going nowhere. Your brain is humming, but the walls, the time, and the system will not let you out. You want to run, but you've given them your legs. He snapped his case shut. Idle speed, Adamson, get used to it. Day 16. The days here in Lincoln have very quickly turned into a boring vacuum of a routine. Idle speed. But I'm adapting. Sometimes I'm frightened how easy it can be. Moments of feeling upbeat, whether thinking hopefully I can regain some semblance of my life, or the even clearer minutes in trying to write this journal, leave me with a stab of guilt. After all I've inflicted on my family, how can I have thoughts of normalcy? Day 19. The trick I've been told is not to squeeze time too hard, not to wake up on an April morning worrying about the kids' back-to-school needs in August, which is precisely what I did this morning. Squeeze time too tightly and it'll come back on you and ride you all the way down. Get up, lay down, get up again, do it over and over like a soldier. It's a quote from Jimmy. Day 23. I share this 6-foot by 10-foot room with a black guy called Ace. He's short, tough, wiry, and because he had a room before I arrived, he sleeps in the bottom bunk. California bound after this short Nebraska stay, 1 to 3 years, he carries a terrible burden. His 2-year-old son accidentally shot himself to death while playing with a gun Ace thought he had hidden under his mattress in his apartment in North Omaha. He quietly pulls out from his Bible a picture of a little black boy, innocently dressed up in a suit, eyes closed, hands folded, in a beautiful dark blue casket. Dressed to the nines that day, Ace mumbles. That night, as we lay in our beds, we talked back and forth on many things. He admitted black men are attracted to white women. Big difference there. Because they're softer than, no, I'm quoting here, because they're softer than the black bitches. You know, softer to feel, easier to boss around. You get in a fight with a black bitch, shit, she'll fight back like a motherfucker. She'll go after the goddamn hammer. She gets mad enough. Now, white mamas, snow bunnies, you know, they like the men to be kind of mean. One other thing about Ace, he rocks himself to sleep. He climbs into bed and just rolls himself back and forth, sometimes up to 20 minutes until he finally dozes off. Tonight, before rocking himself under, he told me of the men he shot in his life, including my time in California, 8 altogether. I killed 2.5 of them I killed. 2.5, I ask, hoping the attention in my voice is not too obvious. After all, you learn quickly in prison never to be shocked by anyone's crimes. Yeah, 2 motherfuckers died right away, but one held on for 6 months or so in the hospital. Sputtered most of his guts out in a van, but the doctors patched him up and he lived. But I hurt him so bad he wished he had died, so I just count him as half. I quietly asked him if he could somehow get by without guns, maybe his chances of staying out of jail would improve. Could be because all I know is where I run, you gotta have a gun to get by. You don't let someone fuck you if you can fuck them first. You know what I'm telling you, cuz? I heard him start to hum and rock. Day 24, a hot and muggy day, and after playing basketball outside on our yard time, the shower felt good. After that, I shaved slowly and carefully, put on new underwear and socks and the same sweaty, faded green jumpsuit and headed down the stairs to the smoke-filled cauldron that is a prison on a Saturday night. Some scenes, noises, and smells. Pimping T, restlessly shifting his feet back and forth, trying to talk with Red while at the same time avoiding his blasting breath. The preacher, a lean, smooth white guy, is running the pool table again. Quick with a stick, he's a man being pulled apart by the spell of gambling and drugs, the basic hustle on one side, and Jesus, he says, is trying to pull him back on the other side. Off in the corner, a small cocaine deal is being finalized. While underneath the concrete stairs, Fast Freddy is running another poker game. Cigarettes are the currency, and Freddy is the house. The only thing this journal's got going for him, from my point of view, is I was in prison. I mean, I think some of it is well written and some of it's sloppy and very weak, but I mean, the angle is being in prison. 79. Waiting for my turn on the basketball court outside. It's very hot and a humid afternoon. A wiry, grizzled man is taking a break from his daily 3-mile run on the track. Sitting by me on the park bench, he is watching the basketball game going on. There are shouts, threats, some shoves, and swearing exchanged. Those punk asses, they think they're pretty tough, he says suddenly with a dry, crackled voice full of ashes and smoke. They ought to get down on their knees and thank God above they wound up here and not in the pen. There's a thud of flesh colliding on the court, and a long-haired boy takes a quick elbow in the stomach as he's going for a rebound. That cute little wimp would have been claimed, branded, and fucked in the first hour after he got off the bus down there. The old man chuckles softly. The hot sun reflects hard off his slightly sunken gray eyes. He's not wearing a shirt, and I see his stomach muscles tighten and twitch. Night 88. The end of June, the first half of 1987 is over. I spent the day working algebra and science in the education department, and the long summer evening followed by the tom-tom beat of the basketball. Time bears down very seriously at times, somewhat looser and smoother at other points in these days, but it does move forward at its own pace. Sometimes I feel every second, every breath, I am a prisoner, I am a convict. Day 108. I gotta tell you, this is one of my favorite stories. I'm sorry, I'm glad I was there to capture this moment. One of the more ferocious Christian brothers is a black named Duncan. Brother Dunk is a name he likes to use. First time I saw him was in our pod's day room as I went in to get hot water for coffee. 4 blacks were playing dominoes, slamming down the pieces as hard as they could. Suddenly a whoop and a shout, Jesus Christ, to the rooftop. The loser stretched out on the floor and began doing the mandatory push-ups. I looked over at a gleaming, steamy-eyed man singing sweetly Blessed Assurance, sitting iron straight in his chair. That was Brother Dunk. Today I saw Brother Dunk in action again, this time in front of the education door while an outside crew was installing the beam support for a satellite cable dish. Brother Dunk was lecturing and verbally flailing a younger white boy. He was loud. He had that gospel rocking back and forth on his heels rhythm, and he was as smooth and fluent as a behind-the-back pass on the basketball court. And apparently he could dunk too. He was putting the white boy away. The devil be talking fried chicken without the oil. He be talking smoke to you, and you be standing there grinning, taking it all in and forgetting the Lord Jesus. For remember, just remember what Proverbs 1:10 tells us, good friend, to avoid bad company. And we both know, as sure as Brother Dunk is real and standing right here in front of you, all about the guys you've been clowning with. The white boy lowered his eyes and almost shrank away into his baseball cap as Dunk leaped ahead. Yeah, oh my Jesus. Brother Dunk did hit home with that one, didn't he? And I am again reminded of the mighty words in Proverbs chapter 12, verse 26. The righteous should choose his friends carefully. By now I had swung behind him and moving in a slow arc, headed towards the library. I heard Jesus, Jesus, Jesus bouncing off the bricks in the blistering heat back behind me. Okay, now I'm skipping ahead quite a bit in the chronology of things. I've got moved across the street to what they call work release. I was on what they call work detail. I got the sweetest job there was, group. I got to drive the van. The van took the convicts to work and back. I really had it quite well. So I'm picking up a little story. This is night 199. I got the evening van run tonight, and I'm taking a risk by driving off the route to drop one of the guys at his job. It's risking a write-up, but I figure what the hell. I'm only going a few blocks north out of the way, and besides, I'm fascinated listening to the various radio reports and analysis as my former industry, Wall Street, takes a horrendous 508-point plunge. After dropping this guy at his job, I take a detour through the ghetto area of Omaha, North 30th Street to Carter Lake. Turning up the radio. Black Monday, as a stunned and confused Wall Street counts its losses and buries its dead. What triggered this unprecedented sell-off is not clear, but it seems to be, homeboy, hey van driver. Yeah, Rainbow, what do you need? From way in the back of the van, Rainbow and Nudgy, two young, lean, fast-talking blacks, looked at me through giggling and green smoke. "Hey, man, Thomas, you better lock our doors. You better lock the doors driving through here. This neighborhood's rougher than a three-day beard. There's no place for sweet niggers like us to be." More giggling. In the east sky, above the rough and decaying houses, with their veins pulled out in the night, the moon rises over this unhappy, dismal pageant of low life, half-life, and lifers. "Take us home, man. Take us back to the Heartbreak Hotel." Another giggle, another puff of green smoke. Day 203. The 5 a.m. breakfast, the eggs scrambled, cold and green, the cook, very black and very snarly. A little touch of tension and excitement in the air today, as it is once again parole board day. Quite a few have their big chance of freedom. By 8 o'clock, there are about 10 of us sitting around the tables up front. Today, there is even more interest than usual. Mike, a 32-year-old inmate who has served 14 years for second-degree murder, is the first to go before the board. Both his family and the family of the victim are here today. There's local TV coverage. The session is closed off. For nearly an hour and a half, we speculate on his fate. In the 14 years since his crime, he has turned his life around. A model prisoner, married, about to get his BA, he is the example of the rehabilitation that is the stated focus of the system. Both sides recess as the board deliberates, each family taking up a side of the room. The victim's mother, father, and sister sit upright and say little to one another. The sister is an attractive woman in her 30s, but her eyes are controlled fire, a creased, sharp hatred that she steadily directs across the room at Mike. Later on TV, we will see her testify heatedly against parole. But even in her passion, there is a centered, balanced control of fury. In the end, both sides cried. Parole, for now, was denied. All right, skipping down about 90, 95 days, I'm still driving the van, and I've become friends with a guy named Ring. Ring is day 298. Ring is a giant black man. Today, he received his third write-up in a month. This time, he cashed his last paycheck, about $135, and gave the money to his wife to pay her overdue heating bill. The problem is he cashed his check without getting permission from his counselor. Ooh. What this whole damn place does to a man, he snarled, is program you like a robot. Don't touch people. Don't shake hands with a friend. Don't give change to somebody who needs it. Turn all your money in every week and then write down a request to get some of your own damn money back to buy cigarettes and clothes. They think I'm going to let my family freeze? He ran his huge smoke-burned hand through his black beard, made a series of flicking motions, as if cleaning crumbs out of his face, or perhaps talking in a very fluid, fast sign language. So a man got to slide the change under the table, or go behind their backs to light somebody else's cigarette. What they're teaching us is to keep cheating, keep going against their damned-ass values. They're teaching us to be slicker. My parole date is March, but my jam date is next January. I'm telling them to ship me back to Lincoln. Let me lay down and do my time till I jam. I'm tired of licking their candy asses. I'm going on the jam plan. Now we're going to go about 40 days later. Ring is still with us. Night 326, sitting in the day room, TV's running and no one watching. I'm talking with Ring. This is his second time through the system, and he has developed a perspective on it all. I'm 38 years old. I've been in and out of jail since I was 10. Hell, man, I ain't never had a job for more than 3 months at a time. I need some money for some smack or bags. I hold up a place and just take it. If I hadn't got hooked in heroin when I was a youngster, I wouldn't need any money, just enough to live on. Conversation drifts a while, then with a lurch, Ring leans forward and whispers with half a heart. I remember standing on the corner when I was a kid. A bunch of us young punks were standing around, laughing at the older guys in the other corner by the liquor store. They were passing a bottle around, falling down, getting juiced, getting sick, and we just laughed at them. Last time I was out in '84, I went back to the street, and now we was standing by the liquor place, getting high and stoned, going nowhere. All this time goes by, and all we done is change corners. Day 338. On the 5:50 morning van run, I just crossed over the bridge leading to downtown when the front tire exploded. Pulling the van quickly to the curb by a soup factory, I got out to pretend I was inspecting the damage to the tire. I was going to change it. I looked around for help from my comrades, but the convicts slipped quietly out of the van into the still dark of the morning, scattering silently like bugs from an overturned rock. Day 341. There are 16 guys going to the board. The first 2 have been shot down. Ring is next, and he strides into the room with his mother and, incredibly, the manager of the drug therapy center he robbed 3 years ago. Having been hooked on methadone and unable to get his fix back then, Ring had reluctantly turned to robbing the place. The manager did not want to press charges, but the state of Nebraska did, and Ring got a 3 to 5. Today, the manager will speak on Ring's behalf. 30 minutes later, he emerges from the conference room, holds up his arms in a boxer's clasp of victory. The entire room, 40 people or so, erupts in spontaneous and genuine applause. Ring will be free today. I eat lunch with Eddie, who'll be the first to see the board this afternoon. He is quiet, hoping to be allowed out, but also trying not to build his hopes up against the lords of oppression. They may just not be in the frame of mind to let me loose. Doesn't matter. I jam in November anyway. He lights a cigarette and looks far away. They can't touch me spiritually. I play for the gods. Remember that in your little book, Tom. In your life, always play for the gods. 2 hours later, I'm helping Eddie load his clothes and books into the cab, taking him away from Heartbreak Hotel. A quick look in his eyes, still darting, still cat-like. He jokingly thanks me for helping him through his last agony, and with a dreamlike wave, looking pale and still caged, is driven away, finally free. Day 370 for the record, please state your name. I leaned ahead in a long-necked microphone and barely croaked through my nerves, Tom Adamson. No Bill Murray Act today, no way, no how, no sir. We understand both from letters written in your behalf and your counselor's recommendation that you would like a 60-day review, after which point, if the board agrees, a 1-year final would be set. You have no major write-ups, been following your program very well. The vice chairman raised his eyes, his eyes to mine. The other 2 members were silent and motionless. Mr. Adamson, what have you done to help yourself? I've been attending AA and GA to try and understand my compulsions. The 3 faces across the table beamed as one. The chairman continued a mild, pleasant interrogation. In the end, all 3 agreed to see me again in 2 months. At that point, set me a 1-year final. I've always had a problem between the line between lyrics and poetry. You take a good Bob Dylan effort or even a good John Lennon effort, and to me, the difference between poetry and lyrics is very, very unclear there. I think they're taking a poetic effort and putting music to it. Okay, I'm going to read you a few poems, and I guess that'll be the extent for me. Listening to the Neon Buddha. Don't raise your voice. Death may be listening. Don't move your eyes, because if he's listening, he's watching too. And don't shift your position. That's what he expects you to do. In the art of dying, gather your mind and let it drop through. You are not needed here anymore. Let yourself go. Take root in the sky and grow. Next one is called The Second Great Visitor. It's a little lighter. Not much, but a little bit. The Second Great Visitor. He who has never been born has passed away. He who has never been known is now forgotten. He who has never arrived is turned away at the door. And the Spirit lives on through us. It is searching on and on, reaching through the roots of our birth and our death. 100 million years are but a verse in its song. As I write this, winter is nailing shut the window. But I see the icy shadow move. The second great visitor turns outward. Bone deep in the desert, the word of God burns a virgin stranger with a deep golden pain. The child is born, bleeding, scratched from the stars. And the Spirit lives on through us. It is searching on and on, reaching through the roots of our birth and death. 100 million years are but a verse in its song. Okay, the next one is as I've commented before, kind of on the line between lyric and poetry. It's called Taking the Bitter with the Sweet. It was a haunting light. It was the end of the year. We stood in each other's sight and counted out our fear. So not to hurt each other, our eyes never meet, taking the bitter with the sweet. It was a high noon heat. It was like in a dream. We shuffled our feet along the sidewalk steam, stepping slowly past the dust at our feet, taking the bitter with the sweet. And who can say between time and space, between dreams and reality, a trade-off is taking place. It was a hurting time. The past was scattered on the floor. just another lonely gambler hoping for one more lucky roll. So not to hear myself, I don't dare repeat, taking the bitter with the sweet. Well, next one's a little more up-tempo. Called Endless Night. Your body's young and firm, your breasts are way uptight, but you won't keep them up forever when you get to that endless night. Your eyes are strong and clear as you search out the light, but you'll be blind and a-begging when you reach that endless night. Have you found the truth? Have you found out about you? 'Cause the wheel runs round and round, and the wheel runs true. And when the darkness comes tumbling down, it's going to be a change for you. Your hands are sure and steady as you grab everything in sight, but you'll be shaken when you awaken to the oncoming endless night. Your nerve is icy and cool. Everything you do is just so right. But there'll come a time when you question all things, when in your heart midnight rings. It's coming down fast, that endless night. I don't want to do that one. Yeah, I like this one. I'm proud of this one. This one is straight lyric. Okay? Sometimes you gotta laugh. The paint is peeling off the Jesus loves you sign, and in her heart she's feeling, maybe it will happen this time. Maybe God will cross the line. She packs a rope and a razor, zips her coat up tight, grabs her Mannlicher 47, and stalks out slow into the night. She is a lost child, a prisoner of the rain. Sometimes you gotta laugh or go insane. A hair-trigger moon is rising, the trees feed a nervous wind, and through the neon and the noise, she hears the hymns begin. In the back of the church balcony, she kneels down righteous and low, watching the circus of sinners, but she'll be the star of God's show. She's a lost child, a snowflake on the pane. Sometimes you gotta laugh or go insane. She gives away a twitch of laughter as she lovingly strokes the crosshairs. And looking down at the man at the cross, she mutters one more prayer. I am a lost child, a prisoner of the rain. Sometimes I gotta laugh or go insane. And when they finally caught her, she gave them all her cemetery stare. As she silently stood, she knew it was all good. She could feel God loving her everywhere as the wind gently weaved her hair. She is a lost child, a prisoner with no name. Sometimes you gotta laugh or go insane. Next one is called Broken Glass. Also, I think a lyric, I don't know. You tell me what you think. Broken glass. She had Bible black hair, faraway eyes with a look of common prayer. You might give her a glance, but not a stare. At 15, her life was folded in half. She held her confirmation beads in her hand and squeezed them until she bled and then laughed. It reminded her of broken glass. She married young, she whispered vows. She played the game and took the bows. But late at night alone, her heart would howl. Sometimes she'd take her diamond ring and cut along her wrist a little just to hear her blood sing. A secret joy, all the colors, reminded her of broken glass. One day she turned on the hate, stuck her head in it, and began the long wait, dreaming back to the little child who had long ago sealed her fate. They found her note, this too shall pass, alongside the mirror of broken glass. Okay, let's raise our spirits a little here. This one is written to the, it begins to the tune Mr. Sandman. Dun, 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 dun. Everybody know that? Bum, 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 bum. It's called I'm on the Fast Track. So I will not sing it though. I will not sing. I'm on the fast track to nowhere at all. Bum, 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 bum. My MBA just covers cracks in a wall. I used to believe in John, George, Jesus, and Paul. Now all I believe is what rises must fall. What's happened to the street-fighting man with revolution in his heart and a gun in his hand? Now he's jogging off fat, wearing a Nike headband. I woke up slowly in kind of a pain, found myself in the turning lane. How I got here, I can't explain. Mid-air and mid-life, how long will I remain? I'm on a fast track with no job in sight. My resume just isn't coming out right. And the kids coming up behind me seem faster and bright. I guess we've all graduated from the school of hard knocks, where the losers are left missing on the milk carton, and the winners are smiling on the cereal box. And sometimes around the edge of my dreams, I catch a whiff of the pine box, and I'm on the fast track. It wasn't much of a lift, but